welcome viewers. Tomo back again with another guitar amp. This one was gifted to me. It was actually pulled out of the trash and looks perfect in every way, but when you play it, it cuts out, and it's a problem that they can't replicate. So what I'm going to do is, it seems as if the longer it's on, it just kind of fizzles, literally fizzles, and cuts out, and then it's done. You can't, it won't make a sound no matter what you do, and you have to turn it off and then turn it back on again to get it to reboot. And that's what I don't like about these modeling amps, is they are actually, they're computers inside, and everything's digital. So they're very difficult to trace where a problem may be located, and even if you can trace it, doesn't mean you can easily fix it. So I don't know if I'll be able to successfully repair this. Banging it doesn't seem to duplicate the problem, which makes me feel that it is not a bad connection somewhere inside the amp. Let's see if we put a clock there, and we'll see if we can see how long it takes to fizzle out on its own. And there it goes. Basically, as I was changing the preset dial, it just cuts out, but I'm not sure if it's related to that preset dial or not, because it just seems to just show up at random. Sometimes it could be within the first minute of playing with the amp. Other times it's like now about four minutes into it, me toying around with the dials. So let me have a look inside, and I'm also going to go online, Google it, and do some research and see if we can pin down what the issue with this is, and what we should do about it. To take the back off, you're going to need a T20 Torx security bit. It has a little hole countersunk in the middle because these have a pin. I mean, they designed an amp that was destined to fail, and yet they want to make it difficult for you to fix it and make it easier to take the back off. Take the cord, not plugged in, as I showed you, not plugged in. Plug it in there, and that should give you the leverage to, now it's going to make a liar out of me, to take the back off. And then you swing this down out of the way, and that's all that's in here. That is it. So this is an amplifier board over here. This is the Bluetooth, and probably the DAC is over here. That's the control panel stuff up there. There's your power supply with the rectifier, voltage regulator, whatever's down there. But all we want to pay attention to at the moment for this segment is, get you guys a little more light here, this board right here. You see that I have this unplugged. That's your Bluetooth controller. There's a little thing on there. Zoom in. Let's see. It says Wi-Fi on there. Will it focus? There you go. That's the Bluetooth control board. And from what I've read, everything stems from a problem with that. So, did a little experiment. I just unplugged the control cable from it And then I was able to play this amp for about 45 minutes non-stop, and it gave me absolutely no trouble. Of course, it also has no Bluetooth connectivity, so any Bluetooth related features are gone with that unplugged. But hey, at least the amp is usable, and every other feature as far as the sounds, etc., all of that works. And most importantly, it didn't conk out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out, and I'm just going to check to see how the solder joints are down there, because this is not a good setup for... hold on, sorry folks, I was actually leaning on the zoom button. Let me back up there, let you focus in. Okay. So I am going to remove the whole control panel from the amp, and I'm going to examine the solder joints down in there. Just because this is not an ideal setup, kind of reminiscent of the PV amp that I just fixed, where this is prone to vibration. I mean, there's a lot of sound and vibrations going on in here. It feels fairly solid, but if there's a solder joint that's iffy, the vibrations are just going to make it worse. Personally, I do not feel very confident that this is going to be the problem. I really do not. I think the problem is either in the hardware within that board itself, or in the firmware of the chip that's controlling it. The problem's just been too widespread. So, but what else am I going to do? Those problems I cannot address. So to remove this, all you have to do is we're going to have to pop off these covers. They may be a little difficult to pry off. Screw under each one, and you see them down there. And then there's a Phillips head screw here. I'm going to undo those, and then this control panel should slide right out. Rather than unplugging wires, I may have to undo some of these harnesses, and just so long as I can flip it up. This one here I can unplug, and this goes up to the control panel. So let me do that now, and we'll investigate a little further. You want to lift up just the plastic part a little bit there, and then you pry up from underneath. Okay, so the cable to the Bluetooth board has already been unplugged, and then I unplugged the one that's right here so that I can flip this up, and then I'm going to unplug this one here, remove that screw, remove the nut for the input jack. We're going to need to unplug this ribbon cable, so you got to lift up this black bar here to unlock that ribbon cable for it to come out. Just like that. Don't try pulling it out without unlocking it first. First, we're going to look at the back or outer side of the Bluetooth board, and that's this board here. And all the solder connections look nice and solid. So do the ones over on this side over here on the main board. Let me flip it over and show you what I see on the other side. Over on this side, if you look at these solder joints, get in there. Hopefully I have a sharp enough image on the video for you. You see there's little to no solder on a lot of those legs there. First of all, we don't know of those legs, which ones are connected. Some of them aren't on this side of the board. But it really doesn't mean anything. So let me see, I can show you over here. In the holes, all the solder holes are what's referred to as vias. And basically it's a little copper tube or copper plating that's down inside the hole, and you can actually see it in this screw hole over here. That the inside here is actually copper plated to connect this side with the other side. So realistically, solder on this side, absence of solder on this side, really doesn't mean a whole lot. But it's all I have to go on. Like I had said before, my hopes of being able to fix this are very slim. I don't believe that this is a problem. But it's all I have to go on, that possibly this, this little board here with the guitar speaker vibrating, you know, creating vibrations, that this thing will be vibrating, and maybe there's a hairline crack within one of those vias or one of those connections, and that's what's causing this thing to fritz out. I doubt. I don't think it's going to fix it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my no rinse solder flux, solder paste, and I'm going to run it down along those joints, and then I am going to flow it from the other side, and at that point the solder should flow over to this top side here and make a solid connection on every leg, and I'll probably do the same thing on the other side of the main board, just as additional insurance. But like I said, my hopes aren't too high. By rights, it should not be any kind of problem. I do not see anything wrong with any of those solder joints. Now folks, I'm not going to do a video of me actually soldering that, because I should take a picture of how close the camera is to the board at this point with my equipment. That's what I have to work with. So I really don't want solder splatter, etc. getting on my camera. So I'm going to do the repair, if you can call it that, on this board. And then I'm going to put the amp all back together. Assembly will be just reverse of what you saw for disassembly. And we're going to give it a try and cross our fingers and see what happens. Alright folks, well, I put it all back together, tested it out. And first test I went for about 15 minutes with it connected to the tablet and everything. No trouble at all. I then did a factory reset on the amplifier and turned off my tablet so I could test and be sure with no Bluetooth connectivity whatsoever. See how the amp performed. Did that for about 30-40 minutes, probably maybe even 45 minutes. No trouble at all. Reconnected with the tablet. I've gone for another 15 minutes, and I have had zero trouble whatsoever. I've had no trouble with the amp cutting out. I've had no trouble with losing Bluetooth connectivity with the app. I know a lot of people have had that complaint. Whereas before, with testing it out, I don't think I ever got to 5 minutes without the amp failing on me. It's probably more like 3 minutes. And what's more is, on no occasion did I have the amp not fail on me. Every time I turned it on and tried it out, it failed every single time. So it would appear that I was on the right track, that the problem did stem from the solder joints on the Bluetooth board. Likelihood, since it appears that a lot of the amps initially work and then fail, is that the vias, that's the copper lining inside the holes for on the PC board connecting one side of the board to the other, they either cracked, were not fully connected to begin with. So possibly the stress of manufacturing, putting the pins into the PC board will weaken the vias. It's hard to say, it's just conjecture. But with the solder flowed all the way through from one side of the board to the other, makes for a nice solid connection, and also makes for a solid physical foundation to secure the board so it won't be able to vibrate and fail again. But since I made this video without much faith in being successful, I wasn't very complete. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the back off the amp, get in there with the camera, and just review again with you again what I did, and so you can actually get a close-up shot and see the results. And that way you can, if you have experience in doing these repairs, that you can get in there and have a successful repair and get your amp up and running, or perhaps a friend's amp up and running, or a client's amp up and running. So let me get the back off and we'll dive in there and show you exactly what I did again. Hi folks, we're back inside the amp again, and I'm going freehand, so excuse any jitteriness or blurriness because I'm also doing manual focus here. This is the Bluetooth board, once again, Bluetooth board that's in question. Now, this repair, if you're going to attempt it, is only for those who have a lot of experience with soldering. This is not a job for you to do as your first try. It will not end well for you. So this is for if you have experience doing it. Here's where I had to do the repair. It's a double row, one row, two rows of legs coming off that board on a 90-degree angle, and then into this board here. And what I did was, once again, I put soldering flux up on this side, and then I soldered from the other side and allowed it to flow through, and you see those nice clean little solder joints there. They look really good and healthy, except for when you get down to the very end one here and the one behind it. I could not get solder to flow on those, and I suspect those two holes lack the vias, the copper lining inside the hole, and that was preventing it from flowing through. I even tried soldering from this side. You can see a little residual solder on the leg there. So if you're soldering here and you cannot get solder to flow through one of these joints, look at it real closely and try to determine if there's a trace that actually goes there. Don't go killing yourself or damaging the board trying to solder a leg that just really does not need to be soldered. Remember that a good portion of them are just there for support. They're just the foundation to hold that board solidly in place. I wanted to give a clear demonstration of the technique I used for soldering, and I wanted to do a mock-up, and I tried a few things with what I had on hand. This is the best I can do, folks, so it's going to take a little bit of imagination on your part. So imagine this is the Bluetooth board, and these capacitors are the main board that it connects onto. So when we were looking down on it, this is underneath. You don't really get to see that, but you can see those solder joints that I said that were questionable originally up on this side, and then the legs have a bend, and you'll also have to use your imagination for 2 rows of legs. But we're focusing only on the soldering here, so I just basically tacked them lightly in place on this side. This perf board does have vias through it, and I left it so that there's no solder on the other side. And let me clamp this down, and I'll show you what Okay, on the side where it connects over to the main board, where the bend is, and once again, imagine 2 sets of rows, 2 rows of legs here. You're just going to load it up with the flux, and you would also do the second row. Just really fill it just like you see there. And now let me flip it over to the other side, and I'll show you the soldering technique I do on the other side. This is the side that's facing down in the cabinet. This is the side that you really can't see until you remove the board. So you're just going to heat up the joint and flow into it. Hold for a second, take it away. Now let me show you the results on the other side. And as you can see, right there, the solder has flowed through to the other side via capillary action. Now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to solder it and let you watch from this side how it flows. And that is it. You'll notice how through capillary action the solder flowed right through to the other side with the aid of the soldering flux being there. Now what if you don't have the skills to do this job? You get your amp working simply by unplugging this plug right here. Just pulls right out. The only thing you will lose by doing that is your Bluetooth connectivity. You can still do all the features that this amp has as far as choosing which preamp, which power amp, what effects, what cabinet you're using. You just have to do it all on the top side via the buttons and the dials. Unplugging this plug will not impede any of the features of the amp, but it will get you working again so you can use the amp. Once again, you just can't connect your app to it. Alright folks, well I am going to officially declare this repair to be a success. So if you found this video helpful, or if you got your code 25 or your code 50 back up and running again, please hit that like button, hit the share button, and above all, please hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.